And good evening, and welcome to this late podcast here on Frontrunner. We're here to discuss BAFANA, Tome and Principe. BAFANA walking away with a 2-0 win, although it wasn't the most convincing win. And I'm joined tonight by Calvin Sosibo and Edelbert Dinya, two players, former players who most of us are very familiar with. Guys, welcome.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for having us.
And let's jump straight into it. Calvin, what did you think of the game?
Well, I think for me it was quite a decent game. I think also giving at the opposition, they actually done their homework. They made sure that they have neutralized, in fact, all the other players that were actually posing a threat. They implemented their game, which we saw in the first half, that actually put us into a 0-0 score. They apply their themselves in terms of their pressing traps. They try to play on the turnovers and have actually counterattacks.
And over to you, Eddie. Eddie, just an overall impression. What did you make of the game? How did you think BAFANA did?
First of all, congratulations to BAFANA. You know, two win. I mean, for the win. That's what they wanted. You know, you wanted to win the game, even though you know they were thinking that they might have won the game with a larger margin. But 2-0, it's okay. 3 points, it's what's made us most. I think it's back to the drawing board. I think they went there thinking that, as I said, they are going to score as many goals as they can. But Sao Tome, they did their homework, and they actually wanted to for the game to end, 0-0, because you could tell the first 45 minutes that yes, here and there they were trying to attack, but as the game gone or halftime, it was 0-0. So that's exactly what they wanted. But congratulations to BAFANA. As I said, back to the drawing board. They need to win the second leg.
Yeah, well, let's just break down what was happening in the game. First half, it was difficult for us as South Africans to watch. We've also been joined by former BAFANA international Shuaib Walters, somebody who's also familiar with the South African scene. Shuaib, evening.
Good evening.
Well?
Yeah, kind of well, kind of not too well with regards to the game that I just watched now. Yeah, I don't know what you touched on yet. Oh, how far in you are into the conversation with regarding the match?
We only just touching.
Oh, okay. Yeah, kind of twofold. I was happy for the last half an hour after we scored.
Yeah, well, we're about to discuss the first half because a very frustrating first half to watch where there wasn't much penetration. And it looked like the rhythm was a bit off. Combinations weren't quite working. Do you think it has got to do with the fact that also the team hasn't been together a lot? Very different circumstances where players have to arrive in country, go into a bit of quarantine. Some arrived at different times. Players having to be replaced. How much does that affect a national team who already don't get to play a lot together?
Look, for me, it's yes, you can say that is an issue, but when I look at the game, and I mean, we trained the whole week with that ball. We trained, and yet the first half we are overheating balls or underheating balls and not finding players. And then you kind of think like, is this the first time we're playing with that ball? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because I understand there was a game plan. We want to try, and because they had a bit of a high line defense, we want to try and get our speed and get it over the top. But we were overheating, and we weren't. There wasn't a variety in when one thing wasn't working, we were continuing with it. To answer your question, it can play a factor, but I don't think it should be the reason for us having a poor performance like we did in the first half, where we didn't have one shot on target. What the keeper, I think the keeper was probably the shortest player on the field, the opposition's keeper. And then everybody could see he was injured, and yet we still couldn't get, a shot on target. So for me, it was a little bit concerning to a certain degree because we have much tougher opposition going forward, and even in the AFCON. And do we look? And I think for me is the question that I asked myself is, do we look like a country or a team that can compete to win the AFCON? Because that is what our goal should be.
Yeah, and maybe to follow on that, Eddie, what did you think of the combinations in the midfield, in central midfield? You had two quite defensive central midfielders. Do you think that perhaps that's where the impetus needed to be coming into the team going forward?
I think, Rob, when you're playing at home, you need to score as many goals as you can. And yet I was also asking myself that, when you're playing at home, why are you playing with two defensive midfielders instead of making at least to play with two attacking midfielders, so that you add more punch up front, and then you create those chances, you score as many goals as you want. But playing with the two defensive midfielders shows that probably you wanted to defend because you're not sure about Sao Tome. But you know what? I think now, as I said earlier on, I think it's back to the drawing board. They need to really dig deep and say, okay, how can we beat Sao Tome? And coming to you, Rob, that because we didn't have much time, preparing for the game as a team. But I would ask this question that I think everyone that has played tonight, they've played together again for the national team for a couple of games. So that shouldn't be a problem at all. That players should have gelled, should have known exactly what is it at stake, because they understand each other, they know how to play as a nation. But first half it was disappointing.
Calvin, I'll move on to you and just say, with that first half, did it look like Tome was the team that arrived last night, or did it look like Bafana arrived last night?
Yeah, definitely. But I think the positive that you need to actually look at in terms of the game is more or less, maybe, yes, the combinations maybe were not working that fluid, but at the end of the day, even Sao Tome, they also had a very good defensive block, which is also, we tried to actually to manipulate it by going on the side, which is we had some of the chances actually on the right on the Mokoena side. Even the Dolly wasn't that much of effective, but the speed actually worked in order to break in the lines. But now again, when it comes to the middle, I think the system that they try to apply, they use two pivots, which is they play two center mids dropping in between Hlajwayo for them to actually to let the fullbacks to push up. So then they add a numerical advantage in the middle, because they overloaded the middle so that they were able to press quickly when Sao Tome actually has the ball. But now the disadvantage on that became what? Sao Tome actually set up good traps, in a sense that whenever that Bafana loses their position, they always have a bigger space behind them to cover. So I think within that, the coach has actually seen that with the introduction of Zungu, it actually gave him a dimension in terms of he needs to start with him in order to have authority on the midfielder, boost the confidence, and try to actually to control the midfield, because I think it was much disciplined when actually Zungu came in.
Yeah, well, this one's for all three of you. Obviously, now let's move on to the second half, where you could see the confidence lifted, obviously, once the goal came. And the rhythm started to come together, and the combination started to work. We forget that last month there was a lot of negativity with the loss on the draw in the friendlies. Do you think that confidence did play a little role in that first half performance, and then also in the switch in the second half when things started to work? Suddenly you saw the little passes happening between the guys, and obviously when Zungu came on, that confidence was there already, and he seemed to add to that.
Yeah, I think. Okay, Calvin, you can go for it.
Go ahead, James.
No,
okay.
No. For me, it was. I think it was just after the goal that we started playing, and I think Zungu's type of play is something that we need in the Bafana team. As in, he finds the forward pass, and he has the confidence of bringing in the other midfielders in your Tembazwane, your Percy Taus. Whereas when it was Dean and Mahocho, it was more sideway passes or the long passes. And that is why I think in games like this, if you can still, like Sosi is saying, you have a tight block, but you can unlock them with short 1-2s inside that block. So for me is Zungu, I think, should have maybe started if we had known, and we knew that they were going to play with a tight block, because that's how they played against Ghana. Ghana also scored a penalty late in the game. So for me is we knew that, and we knew we were going to need a combination plays. And to ignite the combination play, you need a midfielder that is going to have confidence with playing that ball in between the midfield and the defense of the opposition. So I think maybe Zungu should have started, because he is probably one of the better passers of the balls with Mahocho. But I mean, that forward pass and finding those Manyamas, Tembazwanes, bringing them into the game. So for me, I think maybe we should have started with him.
I'm guessing that he did only, unfortunately, arrive on Wednesday, I think, with the team. So that may have played a reason as well why he may not have started.
Yeah, but Rob, the opposition arrived last night, and look how well they played.
Any other positives we can take from that? I mean, obviously, Percy Tau always, when his confidence is up, starts making things happen, and that really is what changed the game. Was that the penalty and getting the foul?
Yeah, look, Rob, I think for me,
Okay.
I think Rob, for me, Percy is proving now and again in terms of the type of player he is. He's more influential. He's a player that actually breaks the lines. He's a player that always wants to seize that moment, wants to score. Like, because his records now will actually tell you he's on double figures already. So that actually shows you as a player, even that he's not that young, but at least he's coming forward, he's raising his hand. He always wants to give a positive for the team. And which is actually like a great point to see people at his age trying to raise their hand and actually being part of the national team, trying to get us a positive result. So within that said, I think there's much actually that we can actually get from Percy, and he always try by all means to actually to get us to give us that edge in terms of influencing the game.
Eddie, you wanted to say?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I agree with Shoaib. I mean, regarding Bongani Zungu. Sorry, I think you see the kind of passes that Percy was trying to give to Kiketoli and Zwane. I think those are the type of passes that Zungu should be able to give to Percy Tau, and Percy Tau should be able to finish. I think if Zungu had started the game, with those kind of passes that Shoaib was talking about, I think Percy should have scored many goals.
I think also, just to add on Eddie, I think it makes sense again, because Zungu, Percy, they know each other from Sundown. So I think he knows the type of players that they are, where would they like to receive the ball, how their runs are, because he kept on finding them easy then compared to other players. Not that you're trying to single out other players, but I think for me, it actually made sense in terms of how he placed the ball to their feet, how he wants them to receive the runs that he was making, even though Percy Tau was fairly quick in terms of compared to the defense of Saltamo. But again, I think he could have actually timed his run quite well, or delay a little bit, because for me, I think he actually left them for dead in terms of speed. So I think if he can actually, on the second round when he plays, I think what he needs to work on more is actually timing of his runs, because he makes nice pocket runs and run behind defenders off the shoulders to get into the box.
Shoaib, I'm going to put you on the spot now. Your former captain, Lebo Manyama, playing up front as a striker. How do you think that worked out? I'm someone who's been a Lebo fan, but I'm not 100% sure if it was the right decision, but it might come down to the lack of natural strikers in the squad.
Yeah, I think it is. It definitely is. But for me, it didn't work. And I think with what we were trying to do in the first half, had he done a bit better, I think we could have had a little bit more continuity and fluidness in our play, because you needed somebody to hold up the ball. His touches was out, but also he's playing in a very unfamiliar position. And for your national team, you know, I understand. Yes, you can train it for the week, but I just wasn't happy. What I would have rather wanted was in rather play Percy up front. And then we
Agreed.
just try and you just play, because we were trying to play balls over the top and use speed. Maybe they wanted Percy to come from a deeper position, but yeah, and then like you're saying, also our strikers are either injured or not available. So I do think that we're going to need a little bit of variety. So we're going to need a target man, and we're hoping that somebody will step up, that's not injured or that is available, and actually raise their hand and say, you know what, I am available, and we can have that as an option, because we're definitely going to. I don't see Manyama being a long-term solution as our guy right up front.
Don't you think, Shoaib, maybe you should have actually, maybe the coach could have actually went at least with an out and out, which is a Singh, rather than to try and actually place Manyama on that position? I think it would have actually worked much better to actually activate Percy, because Percy is good off the shoulder. So Singh maybe was going to be the one that was taking up the Manyama role, which is Manyama always drift to the side, and then we lost that presence in terms of, because his duty was actually to hold up the ball. But now if you see a striker crossing the ball, and you still have Pesita, who's the shortest player that is on the field, and we're trying to actually to use Manyama to lay off the balls and play from the second ball. And then I don't know what was the game plan about, because I know a natural striker would know in terms of once they lose position, the first thing that they do, it's either they press, because what they were trying to do, they were trying to close Saltama from actually starting from the back, which is, they were not that good from starting from the back. But I think we became a little bit clumsy in terms of our pressing, because we allowed them few times to actually to break us and then actually make those forward runs, because that's what they were targeting, to actually play on the counter attack.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Skumbuzo in one of the comments says that he would bring in Luther Singh and Bungani Zungu. Are there any other changes you guys would suggest possibly making for the second game, or would you go with those?
I think for me, I'll actually go with, I'll still keep Tlacho at the back, and I'll also just introduce Deruk. I was going to start with Tlacho and Deruk for me, for consistency's sake, and I think for those two centre backs, would actually have a good relationship building up to the next game. Yes, I would agree also with Singh and Zungu. As I've said again, that Zungu actually has that authority, and then is one of the experienced players, as Eddie and Shoaib has alluded, that he actually gives us that forward pass play. He tries and initiate a forward movement. I think that's a plus for us, because that's what we needed more than going sideways.
Eddie, do you think any other changes?
What's Kelvin? Sorry, what's wrong with what's his name? Is it Lebu that was playing with things? That's why today.
Lebusa.
Musa.
Yeah, for me, no.
I think it also gave BAFANA balance, because he's a left centre back rather than putting a right centre back.
This is my problem when you have two. You got a natural left foot back, and you also have a centre back that is right footed. Lebusa was drifted more into a left position, which was applying himself more than a left back. And that's why now that number 10 was able to actually hold up balls to actually to ask Saltoma to actually to join in the attack, because what they were relying on a counter attack. So on their counter attack, he became active because he was too slow to recover to come back into a central position, which is every time when they're trying to play. Remember, you had Mayela who was pushing too high up, and you had also on the other side Mukwena who was pushing too high up. And every time on the overturn, he will always get caught because the balls were playing behind him. So now that forces Wachacha to be sprayed and leave what's this player's name now? Luis, the one that was with number 10, Luis Leal.
But if you look at it first half, their strongest side for Sao Tome was actually on the right side. Yes. So that's why you see he tried to cover more on the left, because that's where the crosses and everything else was happening on.
But
it actually gives you a balance of being a left back and a left centre back.
But now my problem then, Eddie, comes here. When you're going to have a centre back that is actually being playing on the side, what are you saying about our spine of our defense?
But
So
remember,
now you're neglecting the original position whereby in a centre back, you take a centre back out and then they play a cross in. You got to try to actually deal one-on-one with the striker. That's suicide.
But remember, you were two defensive midfielders.
Yeah, but now remember, their tracking back was
What are
not
they
that
doing?
good. They are not that good. They were not that good in terms of tracking back.
And,
So
and,
now,
and for me, is when you're talking about, as much as we had two holding midfielders, I think Dean Furman was the one sitting in front of the back four, protecting. When we were pushing the fullbacks up, Dean Furman was the only one. I mean, Makocho he's a defensive midfielder, but I don't think he's really. I mean, I think he was just a link. I don't know. What do you guys think?
yeah,
No, he
because
was
I
supposed
think,
to be a box to box. He was supposed to be a box to box player,
but that
yeah,
didn't apply.
He didn't give that much.
No,
didn't.
I understand what you're saying, Eddie. I get what you're saying, but now remember, if that plan doesn't work, my problem is one. If you have a vulnerable two centre back and one that is actually plying himself on the side, that becomes a problem, because if you could look at in terms of a 50-50 with Tlatroyo and Lewis, it was actually quite challenging because he was more robust, he was more physical, and he was the one that was actually holding up the ball. So now having Dean Furman to be a screener, and where he was nowhere to be seen, but he was more in terms of advancing because they were playing with two, they were two pivots, which they were trying to initiate attack. So they are overload in the middle also, kind of in a sense actually almost backfired on them.
Just to throw a spanner in the works, you guys were talking about how the combinations worked when Zungu was on, and because of the Sundowns knowledge with Dali and Percy and Tembuzwani. What about having Lyle Lakay come in next to Labusa, who are obviously teammates, and they are working as a combination on that side? How would that change things, considering you mentioned Mayela sometimes being out of place?
So are we now calling it Bafana or Sundowns now? No, I'm just. No, but you know what? I think it's for me. I wouldn't change the back four because I didn't see any problems there. I think what we needed to change only it's up front. You know, we needed somebody that would know that would whether you somebody that is going to hold the ball for the other midfielders to join in, or to put pace there, then we can use his pace. And because we know that Zungu is the type of player that can throw in those passes. I mean, that's just my own opinion.
Morocco on one of the comments calls it a scrappy win. Shuaib, is that what this was?
No.
Look, to be honest, Rob, had we not gotten that penalty, which I think was unnecessary for that defender, because Percy Tau knocked that ball so hard it would have actually gone straight to the goalkeeper. If he had just left Percy, it would have gone. The keeper would have gotten there before the time. So my only concern is yes, it is a scrappy win, because I don't know, would we have played that last half an hour the way we did had we not scored? So that was my concern, and because it didn't look like we were going to score a goal, we needed a moment of brilliance, and that was the moment. And he took it upon himself. You know, that was individual brilliance. It wasn't a team play. Yes, after that we started, but now, when are we going to play the last half an hour at the beginning of the game? That is what I'm saying, is I want to get to. So it was a scrappy win for me. Yes, we played very good in the last half an hour, but for me, I will agree with Morocco. It was definitely a scrappy win.
And also they had a penalty that they were not given to it.
Yes, if we had VAR, it would have been 1-1, and then what? Then
exactly.
Sao Tome plays with a whole 20 players at the back there in front of the big box, defending the draw. You never know. So that's why I'm saying it's look, for me, yes, I will stick with my guns. It was definitely a scrappy win.
Now the away game against Sao Tome and Principe is in my hometown, Port Elizabeth. Not that really away game. How much of a difference is that really going to make now? Because, I mean, the fact is they've lost this first game. It's most probably knocked their confidence quite some time, while we've obviously got the result and that'll boost our confidence. And now we don't have to leave the country.
I don't understand that. Okay, maybe there is a logic into it. Sao Tome is like an island country, right? Why then are we taking them into the coastal cities? Like now we took them to Durban. Now the game is in the, again. Why can't you take them to Limpopo where it's blazing hot there and then see if they can? No, I'm just saying. I mean, listen. Let's take them.
Nah, that's a good tactic. That's a good tactic.
Yeah, let's take them to Mbombela or Toyando. See if they can face the heat.
Yeah, and again, I think also Eddie, I think for them to actually maybe perform far better, it was maybe because of the latitude as well, because
Exactly.
they actually shown to be more fresher than the Bafana team. So I think again also on that one, I think it's right. Maybe if we should have taken them to another destination, we would have actually have maybe more goals, because everybody actually was looking for more goals to be scored on this game.
Junior asks a question that I think, Shuaib, you kind of answered at the beginning. Do you see us winning the AFCON when you watch performances like this?
Yeah, you see, that is the Junior. I did actually. I asked myself that question while I was watching the game. The first 45 minutes, definitely not. We showed glimpses after we scored, but now we're never going to start the game 1-0. So how are we going to change our mentality or our way of play? Yes, there was a bit of urgency. With our play, we were looking like we had the right attitude, but I just don't think that we played. Was it according to plan? Yes, we were trying to get a bit of speed behind. Yes, we were trying that. We didn't accomplish it, but then it didn't work. And then why didn't we change it? Why didn't we try something different? Why didn't we slow the game down a bit? It was just looking like 100 miles per hour. It looked very similar to some of our PSL games that we've been watching recently. So I don't want to be the biggest critic, but we also have to look at, you want to see a future. You want to see that, hey, we can go and compete, and I just don't see that.
I think also for me again, Shoaib, maybe there was too much pressure, in fact, on the guys to score more goals. There's a game that we always play as footballers in training, whereby there's one team where it's 9 versus 11, and then they say you are 2-0 down. And then maybe they were trying to salvage from this, they were trying to actually to get more goals so that they can put themselves in a better position. And I think that psychologically always works on you. And when you find that now, the team that is actually far lesser disadvantaged is actually the team that performs far better, because psyche says now we need to score 4-5 goals in order to put ourselves on the front foot. So now when you are in that position, it becomes a little bit damaging. Yes, as you're right, there are quite glimpses of good hope in terms of the guys gelling together and coming up well. But now again, we have to look at it. Now, why am I actually saying that is due to the point that because after we scored, this is when we look like we want to play. This is when we look like we're going to have actually more goals. Even the introductions of the substitutes that were made. Guys started coming alive. Forward passes, pressing started happening. All of that.
Yeah, yes, I understand that. But for me, you can score 4 goals in 15 minutes. So why are you rushing to score that first goal, but yet the first 45 minutes there wasn't one single shot on target? You understand? There was 2 corners. So did it even show that we even created chances? Now that is why I'm saying maybe now we'll go in a little bit more into the second round. We're gonna go in with a little bit more confidence. Sao Tome is out of this race completely. So what are they playing? Maybe for a little bit of pride, maybe to get spotted by some of the PSL teams. Some of the players will look to get spotted maybe and come and ply the trade here in South Africa. So that could be a goal for them. That's why they will play well. But I mean, they don't really have much to play for now. So would it be a little bit more easier for us? It probably would be, I think. The morale could be down, but then again also they could have a couple of days of rest and actually just rejuvenate and then come guns blazing again, because they had a lot of energy. So tell me, they had a good game plan. They wanted to frustrate us, which they did clearly with the way that we played, and they were basically forcing us to make errors, and we were making errors. So bottom line is, I think that the second round we could score a lot more goals. I think we will actually score a lot more goals.
Before we wrap up, there's 3 South Africans here and a Zimbabwean. And Eddie, obviously, we having a little disappointment despite getting the 3 points. You must feel a little really disappointed after yesterday's result. Algeria beating Zimbabwe 3-1. And Zimbabwe doing quite well in the group, but Zambia catching up now with their win over Botswana.
Yeah, I mean, on another day, we would have won the game. I mean, if you look at the chances that we missed, we would have wrapped up the game. But I think Monday, we definitely going to win it. I think, I mean, if you look at the way we played and the chances that we missed, I think, Monday definitely, we're going to win.
But it's a little bit difficult. It's a little bit difficult, Eddie, because now you must remember that they know that you're going to come out now. So it could be a different game plan.
Mm.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Zimbabwe are playing Algeria, not Tome.
Exactly. So
No, I mean, if you look at our history with Algeria, I think they've apart from the yesterday's game, I think they've only beat us once. So hence I'm saying that now we're playing at home, and hopefully the game is going to be at 3 o'clock, not at night. And we all know that most of them they can't cope with the heat too.
Look, for me, Zimbabwe has always produced brilliant attacking players. I mean, you can go the last 10, 15 years, phenomenal attacking players. So I know that you guys will always create a lot of chances.
And I just hope that I just hope we can put the ball at the back of the net. That's all that matters. Yeah.
I'm anticipating a draw on this.
Okay.
A frustrating draw.
Yeah, I think
I always put my money on the Southern African teams. I lose a lot of money over the years, but I always bet on our own guys. Guys, thank you very much for joining us on this late Friday night. Yeah, and like a positive result, but let's hope that Monday we see 2 positive results for some COSAFA teams.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe on Frontrunner on our YouTube channel, and we'll catch up with you soon.